A placebo is a treatment with no active therapeutic effect, often used as a control in clinical trials. Its impact is based on individual outlook and perceptions. It is a sort of dummy intervention, which can also involve the framing of words. For example, an inactive substance may be a sugar pill with no pharmacological properties. It has been observed that placebo can influence outcomes through psychological factors such as individual perception. Historically used in various settings before modern medicine, placebos are now, in a limited way, employed in some controlled clinical settings to responsibly compare the efficacy of new active treatments against a non-active treatment, for instance, a sugar pill. In this segment, we explore the phenomenon of the placebo effect and its broader role in holistic sciences beyond medicine, albeit subject to its limitations. A placebo may include words, a physical substance, a process, or intervention. Oken et al. 2008 suggest that placebo effects are beneficial health outcomes not related to the relatively direct biological effects of an intervention and can be elicited by an agent that, by itself, is chemically inactive, inert. Further, they suggest that brain regions including anterior cingulate cortex, dorsolateral prefrontal cortex, and basal ganglia have been activated following administration of placebo. These brain regions contribute to the complex interplay of emotional regulation, self-control, and motivation, highlighting their interconnected roles, all of which are important pillars to one's outlook towards their own physiology. A simple example would be applying self-control in diet for a physiological improvement. In essence, this refers to how an individual perceives an intervention and their overall outlook. Conditioning and framing also play a significant role in the broader context of the placebo effect phenomenon. It emphasizes the nature of individual perceptions regarding interventions, which is crucial in understanding the placebo effect. Conditioning refers to how experiences can shape responses to interventions, while framing involves how information is presented and can influence perceptions and expectations. Both factors can significantly impact efficacy, highlighting the complex interplay between mind and body in overall outcomes in health and well-being. Furthering this, Oken et al. 2008 detail that high-success biofeedback that improves one's sense of control may improve clinical outcomes independent of the accuracy of the biofeedback. Further, they state that a systematic review found that positive expectations of outcome were associated with better health outcomes. This observation is shared in holistics. How we perceive things plays a role on any given outcome as part of a wider whole. We consider this a little more minutely. Medicinal interventions, such as a pill or capsule, are perceived primarily as a physical substance which is tangible, with the primary focus on their quantifiable aspects, such as their pharmacological activity based on their innate compounds. In other words, we can see, touch, sometimes smell, and even hear the physicality. Take, for example, a capsule that contains the extract of a plant. It is an object that can be held, seen, may carry a scent, and if dropped on a hard surface, heard. Further, based on particular pharmacological properties, it influences a certain outcome. For example, the anti-inflammatory effects in a capsule of turmeric curcumin. All of these material and sensory aspects provide information which is perceived by an individual. Our perception and outlook may therefore influence an outcome. So are there other factors that influence the perceived effectiveness of any intervention? Reputable sources and ancient disciplines suggest that in some instances, perception and expectation, which are not necessarily quantifiable in the same way as physical matter, have been observed to play a role. Psychological factors can sometimes be understood and measured through studies using questionnaires, self-reports, or biometric data. According to Munangi et al. 2023, the placebo effect is a fascinating phenomenon that occurs when a dummy medical intervention causes improvement in an individual's condition because of the factors associated with the individual's perception of the intervention. Additionally, Pardo Cabello et al. 2022 state that A placebo effect refers to those particular beneficial health changes that are observed after a placebo administration or application, which are attributed to the placebo mechanisms exclusively. For example, expectation, conditioning, observational learning. The placebo effect has been observed and quantified in numerous studies, where individuals based on particular circumstances report symptom improvement even when receiving a non-active intervention. Within the framework of medical ethics, the placebo effect can be significant in distinguishing between actual pharmacological treatments and placebos, allowing for a clearer assessment of treatment efficacy and outcomes. But application of the role of placebo is not without stringent limitations, for example. It is subject to rational and stringent boundaries. On the other side of placebo is the nocebo effect. A nocebo is a negative effect experienced by a person due to negative expectations or perception about a treatment or ailment, even when no active substance is involved. When viewed from a holistic perspective, the expansive realm of medicinal plants, their combinations, and natural diets reveals intangible components that can significantly impact the effectiveness of any holistic approach. For example, the confidence in a particular therapeutic can act as a placebo because of the way it is perceived, sort of like setting a mindset. However, it is essential to consider these factors within a structured framework of specific, rational steps. Similarly, the placebo effect is suggested to involve complex neurobiological mechanisms, meaning that the brain has the potential capacity to trigger real physiological changes based on one's expectations and conditioning. For instance, it has been observed that a generally healthy individual may feel less pain from a placebo resembling real medication due to their expectations shaped by their experience. Similarly, from a holistics viewpoint, several juxtapositions, the material and non-material, objective subjective, and tangible intangible, are integral to the idea of holistic well-being because energy and matter are fundamental in the makeup of physiology. Therefore, how we perceive something influences how we align with it to a certain extent. Nurturing positive expectations based on factual and overall outlook, coupled with a constructive approach as opposed to its direct opposite. Classical conditioning illustrates how a stimulus can become linked to a response, influencing future behavior. Referring back to Pardo Cabello et al., 2022, they state that placebo is an issue of renewed interest in medicine because of its effects on various diseases and its involvement in clinical trials. The term placebo comes from the Latin placere, meaning to please. Placebos have considerable association with ailments like pain, arthritis, and depression. These examples highlight the placebo's potential in real-world scenarios. Additionally, in sports medicine, Hurst et al. 2020 suggests that the use of placebo during training improves performance in a low percentage of athletes in a moderate and significant way. Contrary to this, the nocebo effect is the opposite of placebo, where negative expectations lead to adverse outcomes. However, placebo may show potential in non-harmful contexts, but they have no role in toxic substances and other harmful circumstances. Lastly, in holistics, the responsible approach involves the difference between informed perception as opposed to a lack of, depending on individual circumstances. Holistics recognizes that we hold the potential to trigger advantageous physiological change and potentially reframe our perception towards natural well-being by recognizing the relationship of mind-body energy. We often hear the term, "you are the placebo," and this is a fascinating notion within itself. Subject to individual suitability and individual health status.